Pretty good summer for Nate MacKinnon, right? You win your first Stanley Cup. You sign a $100 million contract coming off the course. I assume he set the course record today, too, just the way things have been rolling for him. But, I mean, we were kind of waiting on it. We talked about it on yesterday's show. When's it going to happen? Will he be the highest paid player in the NHL? Yes and yes. What do you make of the news earlier today?
Well, you listen to Joe Sakic and McFarland, and look, the Colorado Avalanche have shown over the last few seasons, and they finally achieved their ultimate goal of winning Stanley Cup. We thought maybe the year before, it never materializes exactly when you want it to, or the couple of seasons prior, but it all came together. They win a cup. They don't mess around. They're not going to let this. They were not going to let this linger, even though he's got a year left on his deal. You just don't want it during training camp, a distraction, or during the season, then gets into MacKinnon's head as far as, well, how much do they want me? How much do they value me? They knew there's only a select few players in the National Hockey League that you just don't mess around with. You don't mess around with Nathan MacKinnon. He is a franchise player, and obviously the Avalanche wanted to get this done, and now he's a wealthy man, but certainly the Colorado Avalanche and both parties are extremely happy because you've got arguably the top three players in the world, maybe number one in certain areas as far as all around, back in the fold for 8 more years plus this year because it's an extension.
Yeah.
He's only going to make what, 6.6
yeah,
this
season.
He's
still one of the most underpaid.
Let's not forget
guys
as well. Let's not forget the cap. We think in a couple of years could drastically go up, projected to go up. So they're saying we're not messing around here.
No.
We're getting our guy, our franchise guy, our star, locked up. He's been in Colorado a long time, like they had mentioned. He's been through the ups, the downs, and yes, they went to the mountaintop, won the Stanley Cup. I love Nathan MacKinnon. I love him on the ice. I love him off the ice. He was drafted, I believe, in 2013 when the draft was in New Jersey at the Prudential Center. I got to meet him as a young kid. That time flies, as they say. And who would have thought? I don't think he would have ever imagined that he'd be at where he's at today. And a Stanley Cup champion as well, and a wealthy guy, and well-deserved.
And now the goal is to go back-to-back, right? And it's one of the hardest things to do in sports, but you mentioned locking guys up, and they've got a lot of their young core pieces locked up for a long time. Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, of course, they bring back their captain, Gabriel Landeskog, and then re-signing this summer as well, Nichushkin. They signed him to an 8-year deal, and they bring back Lehkonen on another 5-year deal. So they're taking another run at this thing. What do you think about their chances to do it?
Well, look, we always say it's not easy. We talked about this so often when the Tampa Bay won their first Stanley Cup championship and went back-to-back and lost to Colorado just this recent season. And the Avalanche have as good an opportunity to go back-to-back as anybody.
Are they the favorites in your opinion?
I'd say they're the favorites. Somebody's going to have to knock them off for sure. Goaltending still little question mark for me how they'll perform there in Colorado.
Right.
But the one thing about the Avalanche, you don't have to be spectacular in goal. Just make the saves you're supposed to, because they have the puck on their stick so often that it makes it a little easier for a goaltender. But we saw Darcy Kemper, who moved on to the Washington Capitals, make big saves when he had to. That's what he did. He was a big part of it. Don't get me wrong. But Georgiev, this is a great chance for him. So that's the only area. And Francouz, I've always believed in him as well. So I think they have a pretty good tandem, shall I say, but they're loaded for bear. This is a team that's so deep, especially on the back end. Let's not forget about Byram, this kid. He has to get signed as well.
Yep.
It was a coming out party for him in the playoffs. He was outstanding, and you've already got the best defenseman in the game in Cale Makar. And what are they, 23 and younger?
Yeah.
This is a real good team.
For Bear.
To say the least.
Yeah, and a couple of those key departures that we talked about. Spurakovsky's played a big role for them as well. Nazem Kadri. And then I think Nicholas Aube-Kubel, they just got rid of him because he damaged the cup in the team photo.
MacKinnon mentioned it. You just can't. That's the price of success.
Right?
You're not going to keep every player.
money to go around.
But that's okay because you need to change things regardless of you want.
You believe
every
in
year.
subtle tweaks, right?
Subtle tweaks. Even back in my day when there was no cap, very rarely you see a Stanley Cup championship team not make 2 or 3 moves.
Why is that?
Just to keep it fresh. Because you're just worried everybody comes back. You're a little full of yourselves. They got great attitudes. They got leaders. They got guys that know once you get a taste of winning, you want to feel that again. And that's what your core group has to have. And they've got that in Colorado. But you need those young kids or those guys that have never won, never quite been there to kind of just give you that little bit of extra energy the following season, I believe. So those tweaks, as we mentioned, are important.
You won a cup. You won a couple of cups. So you're in a situation that Nathan MacKinnon is now in. After winning your first, how bad do you want the second one? How much tougher is winning multiple Stanley Cups?
It's tougher. You got a bullseye on your back, even though going into last year, I think they were the favorites as well.
Does that experience help, though?
But that will help them. And like I said, been around a long time. And when you have a good core group, not just really good players on the ice, which they have, and Nathan mentioned a few guys. I think you talk about Rantanen and you talk about Landeskog, great leadership. And then we talk about their young D-core. These guys have that experience, especially to understand what it's going to take. You take it in phases. Start of the year, you can't win the cup in October, so that they just kind of build up to it. But you get that taste. Forget it, Jameson. You want to win more. It's part of your legacy. And now MacKinnon is locked up for a long time. He wants to lead that team to 2, 3, 4 Stanley Cup championships in his time with the Colorado Avalanche. And when it's all said and done, it makes you that much more of a hero and a superstar and a Hall of Famer, which we expect him to be, but he's got a lot of hockey left.
A lot of hockey left.
For these players, make no mistake, you got to connect it with your mouth, your heart and your mouth. A lot of guys will say it with their mouth, but how bad do they want to win? You can tell the Avalanche have a lot of young stars that understand what it takes, and they want to win championships because there's nothing like it.
And you see the cap hit, 12.6, as opposed to Connor McDavid's 12.5. You wonder how much that factored in. If it was him or the agent. Yeah, right? Everything is a competition, so I want to be the highest.
Hey, remember, let's go back quickly when everybody's, he outplayed his contract. We know he was worth more than he was making the last few seasons or handful of seasons. But let's not forget, when he was a young kid, when he signed that deal, Colorado had, just under 50 points.
It was terrible.
One of the worst seasons in history of any team.
Yeah, 48.
And MacKinnon only had 50-something points. So he will look for that security. And he grew out of it, and he was rewarded handsomely, rightfully so, leading his team to a cup.